Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here. And my guests today are two sisters, Andrea Cull and Alison Yates. And they're the founders of a wonderful program called Knitrino. Hi, guys. Welcome to my channel.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, I've been a follower of yours on Instagram for years. And so I sort of like watched that becoming a thing. And the interesting thing for me was that when I first heard your story, and I would like for you to share it with my viewers who might not know you, Alison, you weren't even a knitter when you decided to start this thing. Like, tell me about like the idea of Knitrino. How was that born?
So I was a knitter and I had started doing a little designs for magazines and became quite passionate about knitting. And I was teaching high school at the time. And my students thought it was fascinating because they didn't identify that someone could be making the kind of clothes that I was making. They didn't look like what they thought of when they thought of knitting. And so they realized like you could make whatever you wanted if you learned how to knit, and they wanted to learn. And so I started a knitting club, and it grew really, really fast, and it got to be very complicated for me to run because I had 30 kids in this club, and I was always starting them over. And whenever I would go to YouTube, I never remember what that last video I used was that they liked and found helpful. And just became clear to me that for people their age, they were used to better tools that usually were on their phone. So that was kind of my experience coming into this idea of starting a company together. Allison's experience was completely different.
Yeah, so my background, I am a physicist by training, and I was designing and building lasers for most of my career. And then I went to work for an engineering software company. And there I really got into the business side of things. And I was kind of the head of the customer experience, UX, all of that, user experience. And so I had decided that it was time to leave there. And I really wanted to try starting a business from nothing, from the ground up. And Andrea and I had always been brainstorming business ideas off each other. And they would be, wild things to sometimes to really reasonable things. And we just kept coming back to knitting because it seemed like there hadn't been a lot of innovation there. And so it felt like there was a lot of space to experiment, and, that there were enough people in the market who really craved something better than what was out there. And so I have this philosophy that you don't have to be your own customer to build a great product. That as long as you're listening to the people who want the product, which is a real skill that a lot of people don't do, that you can build the right product even if you're not a user of the product. And so I told Andrea when we started, I said, I have too many hobbies already. I don't have time for another hobby. And so I'm not going to learn to knit. You knit, that's fine. And that lasted, 2 months maybe? I was like, okay, you have to teach me how to knit. I really want a deeper understanding of our customers and what they're going through. And also I just want to experience it. And so now, of course, I knit all the things as well.
But wait, I want to go into more details because this is like very surface level story that everybody probably heard already.
Yeah.
Let's go back to like how you guys grew up. Like, was your household extremely creative? Like, was your mom knitting? And like, Andrea, how did you learn?
That's such a great question. We didn't grow up with a lot. And in fact, it was out of the fact that there wasn't a lot of extra money in our house that mom made lots of our clothes. And so and she would make like matching outfits for us. We have so many cute pictures of when we were little girls in matching dresses. And Allison just sent me something in the mail.
Oh, Oh, this is a good
Mom
one.
wouldn't just make us clothes, but when she had the opportunity, she would make our dolls clothes. So here are a couple of teddy bears from, I don't know, 1980 something that Mom made leotards and little leg warmers for. Allison and I have a dream of making human-sized versions of these to match our bears.
It's probably going to happen.
But we didn't really learn to knit from our mom. I think she tried to teach us and we just weren't that interested. So neither of us learned from her, I would say. Maybe we learned the basics, but we did not stick with it.
So when did you start knitting? Do you remember some of your first projects?
I do. I had started knitting when I was first a teacher. Another teacher in the building was knitting and I thought it was interesting, but I didn't stick with it. For me, it came out of a real traumatic experience in my life a few years later after I had lived through Hurricane Katrina and then some personal trauma, that I just needed something to occupy my mind because I was so sad during that time. And it was just a way for me to get my focus onto something else other than the things that were running around in my head all the time. So it's interesting because in our conversations with a lot of knitters, I think a lot of people do come to knitting out of a bad time in their life where they were grieving or they'd lost someone they loved or they'd been through something tough. And knitting it's more than just knitting. And I don't know if a lot of people outside of the community realize that.
I mean, I want to ask you about that because I feel like people who don't knit don't understand how deep that obsession with knitting goes. And every time I talk to knitters, like the thing that connects us immediately is that deep understanding, right? That there is not a moment of your life when knitting does not enter your mind. Like it's either you thinking about the project that you're making, or you thinking about the yarn, or you, even if you don't know what you want to knit at the moment, even if you're having creative block, it's still part of the thinking process. You wake up and you think knitting and you go to bed and you think knitting. It's like it's always with you. Alison, were you surprised by that? Like when you entered the realm of knitting, right, with that idea, business idea, did you think you're going to find yourself falling down that rabbit hole?
No, I really didn't. Well, even after I decided that I needed to learn to knit, I didn't expect to love it like I do. It started because I didn't want to feel like a fraud. I'd be talking to these knitters and they're talking about garter stitch and stockinette and using all these words that I knew were meaningful. And I could even understand what they meant, but I didn't relate to their experience with those things. And I really did sometimes feel like I was faking it, like I was a fraud. And I thought, I don't want to feel that way. I want to have a genuine, sincere connection with people and really understand the depth of their struggle. And so I thought I'll just learn to knit, then I'll have a really basic understanding. And I never expected it to be occupying my hands every moment that I am still. And in fact, I make different choices now, right? My boyfriend really likes to go see the new Marvel movies when they come out or what have you. And he's always like, do you want to go? And I'm like, no, it's too dark to knit. I'll wait till it comes out on TV or, whatever. Because I just love that feeling of creating and of being productive even when I'm slacking off, right? It's a wonderful feeling.
Oftentimes when siblings are involved in business, and especially when one started something years ago and another one just enters that set of skills, right? There is this mini competition going on and you have to prove that like who is better and who is faster and all these things.
There's no competition. We got all of that out of our system, I think, when we were in high school.
Yeah. Or even younger, maybe. I don't know.
And basically, I just gave up the thought I would ever outcompete Allison on anything that she wants to tackle because when Allison takes something on, it's all or nothing. And she is already by far a much better knitter than I am. She'll do things that I have no desire to do, like dropping down 20 rows and fixing a cable, where I would just much prefer to rip it out and start over. But I think we're both very good knitters, and we both love it equally. So
well, and the thing I love about it is that you know, we're just so different in how we approach knitting, and how we feel about it. Like, there are some threads that are the same, but I love that for Andrea, she's like, no, I enjoy the process. I don't need to be a fast knitter. Like, and I am like timing myself on rows to see if I can knit more efficiently. But it makes a really nice balance across the two of us. Like, I feel like we kind of have the whole spectrum. So our customers fall anywhere in between us, and we have them covered.
Well, let's talk more in depth about the idea of Knitrino. Like, what did you want that application to provide to customers?
That is a great question. And the easy answer, and I'll let Alison follow up, the easy answer is we didn't know when we started. We wanted to build what knitters needed, and we weren't sure what that was. We weren't even sure it was going to be an application. But Alison had background in business, and she had this idea that you start by talking to people. And you want to talk about that, Alison?
Sure. I mean, it's like anything. It's like investigative journalism or research projects. Like, you get such a deeper and richer understanding of what people want and need just by listening. And so we started out, I don't know how much to say, but we started out just by posting to Ravelry that we wanted to talk to knitters. And that was an experience, just posting that. But we got like 100 people who were willing to just chat with us like this. And we just asked them. We didn't tell them anything about what we were thinking, because we didn't really know at that point. But we just asked them questions about their experiences. And so tell us, first, how you learned to knit, why you knit, what you love about it. And tell us about, where your struggles are, what happens when you set something down, and we just, Andrea alluded to it earlier. First, we heard a lot of very personal stories, people who were dealing with postpartum depression, or people who, one lady told us that knitting got her off Zoloft. It was very clear early on that knitting had a much deeper meaning than we thought, maybe, when we started. Or I'm not sure I'm even saying that right. It was just impressive how people related to it.
You mentioned earlier that you were teaching high schoolers and how they are all on the phones. Were you concerned with the fact that, like, if you look at the demographics of knitters, a lot of it is like, 45, 50, 60, 70-year-old and all the population, right? Were you concerned that they're not going to be able to use the app, that it's going to be too complicated, too technically advanced, that they're going to be scared of using it?
I think we really wanted to design something that anyone who uses their phone for the most basic things could use. And we kind of had the idea of Google Maps. Like, before Google Maps, you had a big atlas and you were driving, usually you had to have a second person with you to navigate you, because the map was so big and so hard to follow. And that's kind of how written patterns are to people just starting out and knitting, with all the abbreviations and all of the sizes. You have to know which number is your size, and it was just complicated. And so I remember one woman that we interviewed, I don't know how old she was, but she's like, I don't like to use my phone for very much. She's like, I would never want to use it for knitting. And I said, oh, okay, well, we know it's not going to be for everyone. I said, but do you use Google Maps? And she's like, oh, yeah, I totally use Google Maps. And I was like, well, what if it was something like that? And she's like, oh, I just think people don't really know what it's like until they take a look and use it a little bit. Because our mom uses it, and she's almost blind.
She's legally blind. Yeah.
For somebody who is sitting on the sidelines and they're like, I don't know if that's for me, tell us what this app does now.
Well, so we offer curated knitting projects that are really crafted to be used on a phone. So there's no importing. You're not bringing your own projects in, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And so what it does is it kind of works like you would expect in the future. So if you're knitting something with color work, you can match your color work charts to your yarn colors so that you don't have to do it all in your head. You see only one size at a time. You get row by row project tracking. So we give you both written instructions and a visual representation of what you're knitting. Some people prefer visual, some people prefer written, but it's all there for everyone. And yeah, I mean, it's just you can pin a note anywhere on the chart. So if you make a mistake and you want to remember to come back to it, or if you're setting things down and you're like, okay, I have to remember what I was thinking when I put this down, you can leave yourself a note. And every time you come back, you're going to come back right to where you left off. So it's, we would love to someday have a general solution for where you could bring in anything, but right now we build it all. So we take a pattern from a designer and then build it into Knitrino, and we make videos for every stitch. So if you don't know how to do something, you just click on it and it pops up a video. There's no leaving what you're doing to go to YouTube. It's all right there, because as soon as you leave, we all know you get distracted, right? Like oh, there's something else on YouTube I want to look at, or you check your email, and so it's really nice. It's funny to me how I feel like I'm in a little cave, like a wonderful little cave when I'm knitting at Knitrino.
You mentioned that you can't just bring any pattern you want into it. It's curated patterns by you. How do you decide on what patterns to add there? Are they there forever, or do you take the patterns down at some point? Like, are they there for some period of time? Who makes this decision, and how do you come up with this decision?
Well, I had a background doing a lot of work as with third-party publishers, like pretty well-known magazines. So I kind of knew how that model worked, and that was the model we started with, because we knew that we would only have limited ability just because there's only two of us doing everything, and a pattern may take us 40 hours to build. It may take us 100 hours to build if it's a sweater. And so we just took submissions like a magazine would in the beginning, and we got a lot of great submissions, and we got so many in the beginning. We took all the good ones, and we didn't even know how long it was going to take us. And so it took us a long time just to get through our initial round of submissions. It took us probably the whole first year. And we still are open to taking submissions from designers, but it really has become clear to us that we want to work with people who share our values, and they have used Knitrino and they love what we've built, because it isn't for everyone. We don't pretend that it's for everyone. It's for people who like using their phones to make their lives a little easier. And some people love getting out a knitting book and knitting from a book. And if you already know the language of knitting and you don't mind seeing everyone's size, like some people, that's no big deal to them because they've been doing it forever. So, but for people who aren't so used to that or struggle with, like, I have dyslexia. So for people who have trouble with abbreviations and numbers, Knitrino, we try to use as much real English as we can without abbreviating anything but the basic ones that most people would know. So anyway, I kind of got distracted, but we love working with designers who love Knitrino. If they have used it or seen it and love it and are excited about it, then those are the people we love working with.
We just got an email from a new designer that we're working with just like, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, if that. And so she's just testing out her new project that's coming in Knitrino. And I almost cried. Like, she just went on and on about how amazing it is to use Knitrino to knit. And like, for us, I mean, that just means so much, that kind of sincerity. And, you know, those are the people that we want to partner with. We don't we don't want anybody to say things about Knitrino that they don't believe. And when they can genuinely say, I knit with this and I found it life-changing, like there's nothing better, you know.
Okay, walk me step by step, because I'm trying to like
Okay.
get the clear picture, right? So
Yeah.
let's say I'm a designer and I love you guys, right? And I want to submit my design to you. So I submit the design, and you, being very kind, decide to edit to Knitrino. What's happening then? Like, what do you do to make it work?
I mean, I think it's actually changed a lot since the beginning. In the beginning, we just used the normal model of magazines. Would ask you to write the whole pattern out, and we would start with a PDF, and then we had to just take it all apart. Alison is a genie with Excel spreadsheets and stuff. Like, she can make computer programs out of them. It just blows my mind. And so we were like taking something and then tearing it apart and rebuilding it. And we were like, wait a second, this is backwards. We don't need the whole pattern. We just need to know what motifs they want to use, what kind of gauge they're getting, how they want the thing to fit. And so we actually have taken a lot of the labor of pattern writing off of the designer's plates. And again, that's not for everyone. That's for designers who actually don't necessarily enjoy all the technical aspects of writing a pattern in 20 sizes. Or
it's interesting because in fashion design, the designer is not the same as what we might call a pattern engineer. You know, the designer comes up with the design and then hands it off to somebody else to do the technical, like, construction and all of that. And that was a little epiphany for us as well, that why are we asking? And a lot of the designers out there are good at doing both of those things because they've always done those things. But we know how to quickly and efficiently build things in Knitrino. So we can take that piece off of people if they want it. So you send us a pattern. What we would ask for is just, you know, a sketch of your design, any guidance that you have, how you want it to fit, what a chart might look like if there's color work in it. And then we just build it out, send you a link, you test it out, give us some feedback. And then we start the process of tech editing and test knitting and all of the other steps, you know, getting the sample knit, getting professional photography, all the pieces that go into publishing a beautiful design.
Okay, I'm just like, honestly, my mind is blown away, because when I talk to tech editors, this is people who've been knitting all their lives, who've tried everything. How do you know how to take those patterns apart, create the pattern for Knitrino? How did you acquire that knowledge? How did that process happen for you?
I mean, experience, really. It was learning on the job. So we have some of the most, we think some of the best size charts. We work with Sarah on that, Sarah Walworth. Anyway, and so we have our existing size charts that we grade to. And so for me, it, like, my brain works in numbers. And so for me, it's much more straightforward for me to just do all the grading and build it myself than it is to try and reverse engineer. I like things that have a structure under them. So I can streamline it in a way that makes it go, I won't say fast, because nothing we do is fast, but faster.
Well, from the moment somebody submits their design to you to the moment when this pattern is released on Knitrino, what's your timeline usually?
Oh, it varies a lot.
Well, and we should say we are very limited in what we can take. We are at most, we're publishing 2 patterns a month, but a lot of months it's just 1 pattern a month. So some of those patterns have taken almost a year to build. And we do communicate frequently with the designers to let them know this is more complicated than we thought it was going to be when we started out. And if you want it back, we can give it back. But usually they love Knitrino, so they're happy to wait until we can get it done. But something simple, we can sometimes turn around in maybe 3 months. But that's something really simple. Something like a sweater.
There's a reason we don't have a lot of sweaters in Knitrino. It's really hard to make an economic case to publish sweater patterns for us. They cost us way more than anything else. They're labor intensive, testing, tech editing, all of it just takes so much more. And we just, people don't want to pay 10 times more for a sweater pattern than they do for something else. And, we're not making 10 times as much. So it's a hard one. We want more sweaters, but right now, we just lose money on everyone. So if you want sweaters in Knitrino, everyone who's listening, buy the ones we have and we'll make more.
I think it's important people know that we are a very small, young company. And we just don't have a huge volume in sales, people that have been around a lot longer than us. And so that's another reason why is sweaters, if we're not going to have volume.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the business side of it. So you had a corporate job, Alison, and you quit it and decided to do this full time. And Andrea, I understand you're running a farm. So I'm sure you have some time that you need to spend on that as well occasionally, right?
Occasionally.
So how do you make it a business? Is that frustrating that it's a slow fashion, it takes so long to develop the pattern, and then people will give you attitude about the cost of the pattern and complain about that it's too expensive and all. Was it easy to make it into a business? Are you ever looking back and thinking should have just gotten another corporate job?
Every day we wonder if we made the right decision or not. I believe in what we've built. We have a very loyal community of people who have been with us through the beginning, and it's growing every month, and they believe in what we've built. We just need that to grow a little bit more, I think, and it feels like it's getting to the point where we're going to be okay. But people do make the wrong assumptions about us all the time, that we came from wealth or something and we had investment. We had none of that. This is just our own small life savings and we took a huge risk. We both left our jobs and I loved my job.
And I mean, we haven't had income for 5 years now, and it's getting a little lean. So it's interesting. I think it's such an odd market. It's a market that I love, and I love helping people be better knitters. I love the people who are just blown away by what we've built. But I don't think I expected some of the, I'll say, discontinuity. It's so interesting to me. We know knitters who will spend hundreds of dollars on yarn and then will complain about a, $15 pattern, but they can't design the pattern on their own. And some people can, but many people can't. So they have hundreds of dollars of yarn and can't do anything with it without spending $15 on a pattern. And to me, I did not expect the anchoring that has happened in this market around pattern prices.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of misconception about what it takes to write a pattern, I feel like, because I work with a lot of designers, I interview a lot of designers, so we're becoming friends. And so then I see the struggle of day-to-day struggle of writing a pattern. And there is so many steps going into that. They have to have the yarn, they have to come up with the idea, they have to swatch for the idea, and more often than not, it's not one swatch, it's like multiple swatches just for one idea, right? And then they have to actually knit it, and then they writing a pattern, and then they have to test it, and it's like months go on before they can sell the pattern, and then they have to be marketing geniuses somehow and like push this pattern into masses. And at the end of the day, like there are so many designers that like if they sell 20 patterns, they feel very happy. So it's like it's very tough process. So when people complain about the cost of pattern, and it's hard for designers to hear that.
It is. And I have been known to say, you don't have to buy it. I find it so interesting that people will write to us to complain about our pattern prices, but nobody's making you buy it. And I refuse to sell my labor for less than it's worth. Like, I said to Andrea recently, I remember what it was like, being paid fairly for my labor. That's a nice feeling. I think there are a lot of reasons for it. It's by its very nature something, having the time to hand knit something, that's an expensive hobby. All of our time is expensive. So there are a lot of reasons for it. I understand that, but yeah, I don't feel like I need to join the race to the bottom. Doesn't do anyone any good. So,
well, you mentioned that from the beginning, like when you started, that you didn't have clear vision of where you were going with it, and that you were interviewing all these multiple people and trying to get an understanding of what's the needs of the market, right, of your community. Do you see Knitrino changing in the future? Do you see yourself branching into different directions from what's happening right now?
Yes. We have such a long roadmap. We have such a long roadmap of things that we'd love to add. But like I said, it's just we've done this on our own small budget, and we need to make some money first if we're going to be able to keep going. But yeah, we have some really great ideas.
We do. They're going to be amazing if we can be successful. And it'll hurt my heart a little if we never get to build them. But yeah.
Or if someone else builds it first.
Yeah.
Well, what I notice about you two is that community plays a major role in your lives, and it's probably like why you decided to even start Knitrino. How was that community built? How did you meet all these people, and what role do they play in your lives?
It all happened organically. I will say that when we interviewed people in the very beginning, that was a question we asked everyone. Do you need more community, or do you need more in your knitting community? And hardly one said yes. They either had an in-person community that they felt a part of, or they were kind of introverted in their knitting. And a lot of us are. We just want time to ourselves.
Yeah.
Feel that they needed to connect to other knitters. And I don't know if it was just what happened organically with having a new place to knit together, or the pandemic. I think it was probably a little bit of both. But we were launching kind of in the middle of the pandemic, and so we were this new place that you could knit together where it's all virtual.
Yeah.
But you both also, like, you're busy people, you have this running business, right, that you're trying hard to build, and yet you decided to go and start YouTube channel. What was that decision based on? Like, why did you decide to start YouTube channel?
I think it just felt like a nice fit. So we're already generating a lot of content for all the videos that we put in Knitrino. We host them on Vimeo. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube? I'm not sure, but because it just works a little better with Knitrino, and that way we can control advertising. We don't want people to get ads when they're watching their Knitrino videos. But so we just started thinking, it makes a lot of sense to share this content to YouTube, and kind of came from that. And I think even recently we've been talking about trying to grow our YouTube a little more, changing the kinds of content we're putting up there so it's a little more engaging. And yeah, I've got a new video camera coming today that I'm very excited about to make my knitting videos better.
We would say we did try a podcast.
Yeah.
I think we have 4 episodes, and kudos to you. It takes so much time and energy to do this. So thank you for being a podcast that we can watch and not need to even try to make our own anymore.
I mean, you guys do a lot of different things. So it's, there's, I guess, a space for all of us out there. I saw your pictures from Rhinebeck, and I actually saw you on that podcaster hill at Rhinebeck. And there was a whole group of people coming wearing the same sweater that they made with your app. Tell me how it feels like to be physically surrounded by people who use your app.
It's wonderful.
Amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we did plan it. We're planning a new one this year. And we planned it with one of our favorite people to work with, and that's Paula from Mayak. So like my top shelf of knitting is all Mayak yarns. We love Paula. We love what she stands for. We love the ethics behind her company. So she and all of our knitters plans to get together. It was months, 3 months in the planning of knitting those sweaters, and
yeah, it was a lot of work.
Well, I also saw that you were polishing your dancing skills. There's another one of my favorite YouTubers, Jamie from Cabin Boy Knits.
Yes, it was so beautifully organic. Like we had not met them before. And but I love to dance. In fact, one of the things that drives me crazy is to listen to live music. It doesn't even have to be live half the time, but to listen to good music and not be able to dance to it. Just like my body has to move. And that was maybe the most fun that I have had at a knitting event in my life. It was magical.
But when you go to Rhinebeck, is that your reward for the year of hard work? Is that your playground? Or do you go there to network, to market your product? Like, what's the reason for you going?
It is all work. Like, now there are little bits of reward, like so many of our customers go there too. So we do make sure that we get to see and spend time with our customers. That is a reward. But every year we say, oh, we're not going to go this year. It's too much work. It's too much money. It's exhausting. And then every year our customers convince us to go. So we're going to be there this year too. Even though we said we wouldn't. But yeah, it's someday we will find a way to have more fun when we're there. But right now it's a lot of work.
Well, I hope I'm gonna run into you there. Like it's time we've met in person.
Yeah. Ooh,
yes. If you're going to be there, let's do it. Let's have lunch or brunch or something together.
Yeah.
It's a date.
Yes, I'd love it.
Yay!
Do you have a favorite food vendor at Rhinebeck?
We're so busy. I don't know that we've ever gotten to eat while we're actually there.
Yeah. We just eat. Usually we have emergency backup snacks we bring with us, and we don't really have time, I feel like, to eat when we're there.
I think that we did eat one time, and it was delicious.
I might just have to feed you guys.
Yes, you can. We'll allow it.
Well, describe me your day. Like, how much do you see of each other? How often do you talk to each other? Do you ever fight over Knitrino?
We meet almost every day. We usually use Google Meets, and we work very long days. And at the end of the long day of cognitive work, we are sitting down to do knitting work because we make all of our samples for all of our own photography. And when we started, I was really worried because when we were younger, we didn't really get along very, very good. And then as adults, we started to become very close. And I didn't want to do anything that could ruin how good our relationship had become. And they always say, don't go into business with your friends or your family. But it just felt like we were getting along so well. And we hardly ever have something that we don't see eye to eye on. And when we don't, we can come to a kind of compromise on what makes us both feel okay about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a big part of it is that we do share the same values, but we have very different ways of looking at things and different strengths. And so we actually make kind of the perfect team because there are, we come from the same basic value set, and we both just gravitate toward different things. So I love all the numbery things, and I keep the books and I do all the spreadsheets and like that. Those things are my strengths. And Andrea is so creative, and she's really good at color, and she chooses designs and works with the designers, and so we really make a perfect team, I think.
Who is a better singer?
Alison.
Yeah, Andrea, but no one sings with more passion than Andrea. You would think that she is a great singer, the way she just belts it out with her whole heart.
Does Tina have like a theme song, or do you think it's gonna happen? That's not a bad idea.
We should.
Oh, we're getting on that.
Well, I'm so glad we got to chat today. Thank you so very much, both of you, for being guests of my channel.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And now I promise I'll find you at Rhinebeck and we'll have some fun, even if you're super busy.
Awesome.
That would be amazing.
It would.